Hello and welcome to another episode of the Expanse Abridged Podcast series. Today I've got chapter 24, which is a Miller chapter from the first book, Leviathan Wakes. So when we last saw Miller, he'd been stalking Holden and the boys, and he'd been stalking them from Eros, and the Eros is basically a big casino on an asteroid. Very cool when you say it like that. And he's been stalking through them and he's finally found them. And then the last time we saw Holden, he'd gone to this kind of flop house, it was called, like a shanty building, effectively. There'd been a big gunfight, they'd been ambushed, and Miller had saved the day, and the chapter ended right there. And we continue now with Miller right at that point. So, Miller looked at the dead man, the man he'd just killed, and tried to feel something. There was a trailing adrenaline rush, still ramping up his heartbeat. There was a sense of surprise that came from walking into an unexpected firefight. Past that, though, his mind had already fallen into the long habit of analysis. So our boy is jaded. He's just killed some dudes, and he doesn't give a shit. I think I said last time it was 3. I think it may have been 1. But anyway, he killed the flanker, and he doesn't feel shit about it. And if anything, he then starts moaning about the ambush being bad. He says the ambush had been set up by people who either didn't know what they were doing or didn't have the time or resources to do it right. So our boy Miller is so kind of jaded and miserable that despite surviving an ambush and helping people out, his immediate reaction, rather than to be like, I killed somebody, I have adrenaline, whatever, is just to go, these goddamn amateurs. And that's why you love him. That's why you love him. And also you love him in the TV show, as my good friend Max said, because he can't act. And he kind of looks at Holden, and again, his first reaction is, he's smaller than he'd expected. Which is, I think, a classic thing when you see someone who you don't even seen on TV before, is he's smaller. But this is also in a literal sense, because obviously Holden's an earther, while Miller is a belter. He says Holden has the kind of face that was bad at hiding things. He's a man who kind of wears it all up front, which is why Holden does so well in being honest and open with people. And then Miller looks at Amos. He says, big man, solid with a bare scalp. His eyes unfocused, same way Miller's were. He was the only guy who'd seen serious gunplay before. Which is quite fun when you say gunplay. It makes it sound a bit, I don't know. It's a bit of a weird way of phrasing it. And then they talks about Alex. He was hiding behind the sofa, sitting on his haunches, his eyes wide and panicky. Still there. And they pick up and they're asking Miller, are you the cops? Which he laughs at. And Naomi's like, what the fuck is going on? Why do they try and kill us? And Miller then looks at Naomi. He says her features showed a far-flung racial mix that was unusual even in the melting pot of the belt. Her hands weren't shaking. The big one had the experience, but Miller put the woman down as having the best instincts. So yeah, he's already sizing up our team, and he's getting it pretty bang on. So then he rings up Sematimba, who was the cop he met last time while he was having some egg noodles. And he says, yo, my boy, I said I was going to keep it low profile. I've done the absolute fucking opposite. I watched some tourists go into the wrong place at the wrong time, and there was a gunfight and 3 dead. And he's expecting this to be all over kind of the system net and the police. But Sematimba's like, there is zero information that this has happened, despite there being a full gunfight with automatic weapons. Security should have been swarming them. 1,000 different alerts should have gone out when the first weapon fired. And Sematimba just goes, strange. But I'll be on my way down soon to kind of lock it all up with some other kind of equally competent cops. Because as we looked last time, the security contract on Eros had changed, and it was Carne por la Machina who had the kind of deal, and they're a bunch of thugs. They're not proper boys. So Miller's kind of he realises he's still acting like he's part of the inside machine, he's still a cop. But he's not anymore, he's on the outside, and that things will have consequences. He can't just kind of police them all away. They kind of return to the conversation, and they're like, why were you following us? What were you doing? Amos admits it was the hat, stood out some, and Miller swept off his pork pie hat and considered it. Of course, the big one would make him out from that. And Miller's like, I want to talk to you, I want to talk to somebody, I'm looking for somebody, a crew member of the Scopuli, which all of them kind of like shudder at. And the Scopuli meant something to Holden beyond what Miller had seen on the news. So he kind of explains that he's been looking for a member of that crew there. And Alex kind of wakes up at this point and starts saying holy shit a load of times because he's got his like PTSD on, his shock. And Miller's like, look, I knew you were on the Donager, it blew you all the way to Tycho, and now you're here. What's that about? To which Holden and Naomi are like, how the fuck do you know that? So obviously that is all meant to be top secret, while Anderson Dawes was the guy that let it slip to Miller, and it was only really to prove a point, which even Miller admits. He says he was making a point at the time, the person that told him. And during this conversation, when they're kind of discussing how they know what's going on, Amos has fallen in behind Holden. His face was a friendly cipher. No trouble, unless there was trouble, and then there may be a whole lot of trouble. He's our big, lovable teddy bear. It's like a big guard dog. Alex stands up and Miller's like, I reckon he's ex-Navy, not a ground pounder, but the way he holds himself is still military style, and the voice has the twang that affects some of those people. And they're kind of discussing the sizing each other up, basically, do we trust this guy? So Holden and the boys are like, do we trust him? And eventually Amos just steps in and goes, fuck it, Captain. He shot the flank guy through us. He may be an asshole, but he's okay by me. And Holden kind of admits to him then they're also looking for someone from the Scopuli, and so that person is in this flop house where they are right now. And Miller kind of considers that there may be the ambush, they may go back, try again, they may be reforming, they may be down the corridor, hiding behind a door. And he realises as he's thinking about that, his gun is still drawn, held in the air. And instead of thinking, all these things I could do, wait for the police, etc., he goes, what room are they in? Because obviously he wants to go see Julie. He imagines her all the time. He needs to go find her. So all our boys, then, they go down the corridor. The flop house is described as thin and cramped. The walls had impervious gloss of warehouse paint. And the carpet was a carbon silicate weave that would wear out more slowly than bare stone. So it's a cheap place designed to last a very long time, all artificial. And the boys kind of wander down, and they're looking at trying to find the right room, and all the doors are like fiberglass that Miller can just knock through in one hit. It's all meant to be just a very shitty building. And every different doors with various like cartoons and stuff on them from like long-time residents. Miller's kind of wondering, it's a nightmare, the whole place. Ambushers could step out the doors, they could all be shot, but they're all just kind of desperate to find out what's happened to Julie Mao and just going with it. They get to the room, find where it is, and Miller's up thinking about, I wish they had Havelock with him, they could go in, do all the tactics they know. The tactics were simpler for people who trained together. He's thinking about all that thing he's going to go in with Amos, one of the big things Miller says in the TV show is doors and corners, is where they always get you. It's like, got to check your doors and corners, kid. I think it's that line. I'll have to check for the next episode. And as he's about to figure out how to go in, Holden just knocks on the door and goes, hello, anyone there? Because Holden is our boy. And then Amos walks in, they're like, can you knock down the door? Amos goes in, knocks it down, starts swearing, because obviously he'd broken his leg and he's got the cast off. But he's a big boy, he doesn't give a shit. And they go in, and it's black as a cave. No lights came on, not even the dim glow of monitors and sensory devices. The floor made the crunching sounds of gravel under their feet, and there was an odd, astringent smell that Miller associated with broken screens. Behind it was another smell, much less pleasant. He chose not to think about it. As they're wondering, there's no lights, they can't even get them to work on, and they have to bring out their phones, their hand terminals, and put on a backlight. It's like basically get your phone screen out. It's not even the flashlight part, just the screen on white. And as they look in, they see a thin bed pressed against one wall, a narrow grey tray beside it. The bed was knotted like the remnant of a bad night's sleep. A closet stood open, empty, nearby. A hulking form of an empty vacuum suit lay on the floor like a mannequin with a misplaced head. And as they look around, all the lights have been broken. So there was an old TV that's been broken with half a dozen blows. The wall was kind of dimpled, where there was LED kind of sconces on the ceiling and the wall, and all of them had been broken as well. And Miller picks up a old phone from like a hand terminal. They're basically just phones, really. But he picks up his hand terminal from an old one from underneath the bed and pops it in a evidence bag. Like he turns it inside out like he's picking up a dog poo. And he's telling everyone not to touch anything. There's all these lights have been broken, which is strange. And then Naomi notices some like dark liquid. That's blood. And Miller replies, it's too dark even for blood. And it marks a thin path towards the bathroom, which is where they walk to next. And inside the bathroom, the nasty background smell was much stronger. Something deep, organic and intimate. Manure in a hothouse, or the aftermath of sex, or a slaughterhouse, all of them at once. And again in the bathroom, all of the LEDs had been systematically destroyed, with big blows and been knocked out. Then in the shower stall, Juliet Andromeda Mao lay dead. Terribly sad. Our gal, our imaginary gal, she's died. She's died in the shower as well. We get this lovely description of her, which I'll read out. Her eyes were closed, and that was a mercy. She cut her hair differently since she'd taken the pictures Miller had last seen, and it had changed the shape of her face, but she was unmistakable. She was nude and barely human. Coils of complex growth spilled from her mouth, ears, and vulva. Her ribs and spine had grown spurs like knives that stretched pale skin, ready to cut themselves free of her. Tubes stretched from her back and throat, crawling up the walls behind her. A deep brown slush had leaked from her, filling the shower pan, almost 3 centimetres high. Miller sat there silently, willing the thing before him not to be true, trying to force himself awake. What did they do to you? Oh, kid, what did they do to you? Everyone else is like, oh, holy shit, holy fucking shit. And they all run out. And they kind of take their lights with them, like, don't touch anything, don't get near anything. And as they leave, the lights kind of flicker, and the light in the next room faded as the hand terminals retreated. The twisted shadows momentarily gave her body the illusion of movement. Miller waited, but no breath lifted the bent ribcage. No flicker touched her eyelids. There was nothing. And they go out, and everyone is like fully shocked, as in like, what the fuck is that? Because that's not at all what they expected. They expected someone to be alive, first of all, never mind someone covered in tubes. The police arrive. Miller just walks straight up to them and goes, "Yo, boys, it's fucked." And they're like, "Yep." And there's figuring out he can walk like a cop, so they're all very relaxed about it. And he meets Semitimber, and he's like, "There's some dead guys in that lobby. Leave them. They're not the problem." And Semitimber's like, "Yo, what the fuck? There's 4 dead guys. They're not the problem. That's the 5th body's up there. It's the girl I was looking for." Semitimber's, "I'm sorry." It's like, and Miller goes, "Nah, it's all right." He couldn't accept sympathy. He couldn't accept comfort. A gentle touch would shatter him, so he stayed hard instead. He's like, "You're going to want the coroner on this one." He's like, "Semitimber, you can just say, like, you know what's going on, you just arrived, whatever." But the big thing is, if those security guys, they must be of a security force. So the ambush originally must have been from inside guys that were trying to ambush the guy sent to go retrieve the OPA, who happened to be Holden. It must have been either for money or more likely like an inside job, because otherwise, like, there should have been alarms, etc. And obviously there's this dead body, and he's like, "This guy next to me is James Holden, the guy that started the war." Miller goes, "This is deep, drowning deep. I'm too far gone, forget me." When Semitimber's offering help, he's like, "I'm too far gone, forget me. You just got a call, that's it." And Semitimber asks him, "Just don't leave the station without telling me." And he promises that. And the chapter ends with Miller going, "Call the coroner, trust me." And that's it. It's an exciting one, that. You go immediately into some kind of alien shit all of a sudden, like the blue growths coming out of her eyes and vulva and everything. It's pretty spicy. I think it's a very big kick up as well, because up until this point you hadn't really had too much indication of, I don't know, extraterrestrial or biological warfare, and then all of a sudden that, it's like, holy fuck, well, 1, Julie's dead, that's sad, poor old Miller, at least the boys are together though, but 2, like, what the fuck is going on there? So it's exciting. I do enjoy that one. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that too, and I hope you have a lovely week.